What's going on, guys? This is Ryan with Dark Outpost, and Mark Hamill has just thrown enormous shade, taken a major shot at Rian Johnson, Kathleen Kennedy, and anyone at Lucasfilm who was okay with the destruction of the character Luke Skywalker in The Last Jedi. Since Luke Skywalker's return in The Mandalorian season finale, everyone has been talking about Luke Skywalker, what he means, what this appearance in The Mandalorian might mean for the future of Star Wars. And Mark Hamill has been very vocal about the fact that he loved getting the opportunity to come back and be more like the Luke Skywalker he felt he should have been when he came back for the sequel trilogy. And once again, we're talking about that. Now, Mark Hamill is over on Twitter, puts this out. One of the few things out of the last 100 tweets that Mark Hamill has shown that isn't just vile, divisive political bullshit. But this time, it is throwing a major shot at Rian Johnson. There's no way that it can be seen any way other than that. We'll get to it, but first I want to talk about the lead up to this, and that involves Peyton Reed. Now, Peyton Reed directed the finale of Season 2, Episode 8, Chapter 16, where Luke Skywalker did make his return. In the last few minutes, he shows up, saves the day, hacks apart a bunch of Dark Troopers, takes Grogu from the Mandalorian, and then the episode just ends. And it sent a shockwave through the entertainment industry, to be quite honest with you. I have talked about that scene. I have talked about my doubts for them doing anything to actually decanonize or change anything that will happen in the sequels. But really what I want to focus on today is Peyton Reed and his comments to Mark Hamill. Dear Hamill himself, so Mark Hamill, when I was a kid, this photo hung on my bedroom wall. Star Wars and Luke Skywalker in particular meant a great deal to me. Some things never change. It was an honor and a dream come true to work with you on The Mandalorian. Thank you, hashtag may the force be with you. And it's this picture, right? Luke Skywalker from Star Wars, later renamed A New Hope, with his leg on his land speeder. So now Luke Skywalker is so many people's hero, especially anyone that grew up in that era, that grew up and actually saw Luke Skywalker in theaters. He is an absolute icon that's almost undescribable and unmatched by anyone since. And that is why the destruction of his character in The Last Jedi, the path they decided to take, was so shocking to so many people and so divisive. Well, Mark Hamill responds, and look at the phrases that he uses here. Dear Peyton Reed, I am so grateful to have been given the unexpected opportunity to revisit my character when he was still a symbol of hope and optimism. Your assured direction and kindness was a crucial element in the experience. It means more to me than I can say. Hashtag thank you. Listen to what he said. Revisit my character when he was still a symbol of hope and optimism. If that's not a shot at all the people at Lucasfilm that were a part of the destruction of his character, who decided that they should really undercut him, make him a piece of garbage, destroy his character, when he was still a symbol of hope and optimism. Despite anything they've done in Last Jedi, to so many people, Luke Skywalker has remained that. That's why so many people say Disney Star Wars isn't canon, because what they did with him runs contrary to what everyone who's actually a fan of Star Wars knows to be true. Luke Skywalker wouldn't have done that. Luke Skywalker wouldn't have done those things in the way that he did them. And that is one of the reasons that so many people rejected Star Wars, that The Last Jedi made a fraction of what The Force Awakens made, and then continuously they continued to lose money as they went down the line. Solo lost money, Rise of Skywalker barely creeped over $1 billion, which is pathetic considering how they started off the sequel trilogy with The Force Awakens. Now, we talked about Mark Hamill's Twitter a few weeks ago, right after it happened. Mark Hamill, sometimes the greatest gifts are the most unexpected and something you never realized you wanted until it was given. Hashtag thank you, John and Dave. And this is one of the things that has spurred so many people to talk about the civil war within Lucasfilm, that they think Kathleen Kennedy and Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni are on the other side of the Kathleen Kennedy factions, that there's a active civil war, that they're drawing swords and getting ready to fight each other in Lucasfilm for control of Star Wars. And obviously I've talked a lot about this. For anyone that actually believes that, come on. Now, Kathleen Kennedy is involved in The Mandalorian. She's an executive producer. She's almost never on set. She doesn't have creative control of The Mandalorian. but she doesn't have creative control of virtually anything in Star Wars. She is someone that hires people and puts them in place. Typically, she hires people with thoughts and visions that align with hers. But what they did on The Mandalorian, what Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni did, my comments aside, my thoughts about it aside, has been very well received by the majority of people out there. What's good for them and good for that show is good for Kathleen Kennedy and likely saved her job. Now, they do have different visions. 100% they have different visions. But the idea that they're actively at war trying to subvert each other, that's not true, in my opinion. I just don't think that that's real. They're also not completely hand-in-hand lockstep with everything. That is also not true. The truth lies in the middle. Yes, Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni have problems. Specifically Jon Favreau. I've heard this specifically. Favreau had a problem with what they did to Luke in The Last Jedi. He wanted to help fix Luke Skywalker in The Mandalorian. And honestly, this is all it took. It took a few minutes, and so many people are just back on board. It took a few minutes of Luke Skywalker hacking apart droids and saying a couple lines for so many people to completely forget everything else and be back on board with Star Wars. So clearly, that's all they needed the entire time for the vast majority of the fan base to be receptive to what they were doing. Kathleen Kennedy and a lot of people involved with her had a different vision. Like Rian Johnson had a completely different vision. And there are some people at Lucasfilm that like one of these visions more than the other. But the idea that there's some civil war is nonsense. But we have seen Mark Hamill before go out of his way to say, thank you for letting me be the Luke Skywalker I always felt I was. He does it again with Peyton Reed. And like that shot right there, when he was still a symbol of hope and optimism, that is a clear shot at Rian Johnson, Kathleen Kennedy, and anyone involved with the destruction of his character. There's really no denying it at that point. I think it's pretty obvious. And we've seen the reaction that some people had, some people at Lucasfilm, that, weren't so happy with people showing their emotions at Luke Skywalker's return. Despite my feelings on The Mandalorian, I've told you before, I think it's kind of a mediocre show. I think that it relies heavily on bringing these characters back and really marginalizing the Mandalorian's role in everything. Really taking him completely out of the picture, a real lack of story and some plot holes that people kind of forget about because they get to see these characters that they really cared about from Clone Wars or Rebels or from, Luke Skywalker in the original trilogy. But the vast majority of people are eating up The Mandalorian. It's so well received, and a lot of people have been emotionally affected by the return of Luke Skywalker. There's some people at Lucasfilm that don't like that, like Pablo Hidalgo, and we have called his ass out several times over that. But obviously, Mark Hamill is incredibly happy about it, incredibly happy that Luke Skywalker, for a few minutes, was returned to the character that he felt he always should be. But I'm interested to hear your thoughts about this. I've been talking about the civil war at Lucasfilm and my thoughts about it for quite a while. The truth is somewhere in the middle, right? These visions don't necessarily align with each other. There are people at Lucasfilm that like one more than the other. The idea that they're at their, as Yellow Flash put it, that they're sitting at different lunch tables trying to get back at one another, trying to actively subvert what everyone else is doing. That stuff sounds really good. It sounds like something that we would all like to hear if we've been critical of Disney Star Wars, but in reality, it just doesn't make any sense. What's good for The Mandalorian is good for Kathleen Kennedy. That is very obvious right now, and the fact that she is still at her job and will keep her job because of the success of The Mandalorian. Let me know your thoughts on everything. Smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notifications, share this video out there, and I'll talk to you later. Thanks for watching, everyone, and a huge shout out to my patrons. I appreciate you guys so much. Want to follow me on Twitter or Instagram? Check out the description below. You'll find links to my P.O. box and my Patreon as well. And I'll talk to you guys later.